Kampala head teachers trained in preparation of reopening schools in January. That and more stories in our bulletin today. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nahabe Kajura, but first are the headlines. Construction works in Kingfisher area to commence soon, says CNOOC. At least 4 died in Goma protests against alleged president of Rwandan police. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa back on duty. In our sports today, Bulu eject Chadondo to make semi-final grade. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Africa Today starts with one of our top stories. Now, officials from the China National Offshore Oil Company Uganda Limited have said construction works for Kingfisher Development Area in Chikube are set to start next year. Now, last week, the Chinese company led a team of journalists for a visit to the numerous projects, including the overview of the project proposed oil well areas, ongoing construction of houses for project affected persons, among others, in Chikube district. Our reporter has more. According to the CNOOC head of corporate affairs, Zakaria Rubega, majority of the processes like compensation of the project affected person had been made and soon real construction works would kick off. He also noted that CNOOC never delayed the announcement of the final investment decision because it is not an event, but rather a process which has been ongoing across the board for all partners, where one needs to acquire the land, have the environment and social impact assessment study undertaken and approved, as well as go through procurement processes. Lubega noted that big contracts take a lot of time and resources, as well as enabling laws from the government to ensure that there is proper legislation, and which will be operating, and some of the legislations are as new as 1-2 weeks ago, and some have not been approved. In regards to the environment update on the oil spill contingency plan for Kingfisher oil field and feeder pipeline, Nicholas Kiza, the CNOOC environment supervisor, said that company had undertaken the implementation of the flood hazard and flood assessment study for Lake Albert Shore of Kingfisher oil field to prepare for any oil spills in case they happen in future. Under the Livestock and Agriculture Livelihood Restoration Program, project affected persons in the region have received both agricultural and livestock inputs to boost their income. Officials also say there is also ongoing construction of resettlement houses for affected persons across 3 sub-counties of Changwali, Kaboya and Buseruka. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. Moving on in our top stories, primary school heads and teachers in Kampala are undergoing a training session to understand handling students after lockdown holiday ahead of the reopening of schools on 10th January. Now, as earlier communicated by Education Ministry, the training was organized by Kampala Capital City Authority in conjunction with Cheshire Services Uganda at Nakasero Primary School in Kampala.
Like their colleagues across the country, primary school heads and teachers in Kampala have gathered at Nakasero Primary School to undertake a training session on how to handle pupils after the long holiday. They have been briefed of what is required of them ahead of the school reopening on 10th January 2022.
To take them through the SOPs for schools, we will take them through child protection. We will take them through psychosocial support. How are they going to handle and manage children as they return? Basically, that is the overview of our being here today.
The school heads have been told to adopt a shift system to allow health breaks and suspend the holding of assemblies to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus.
Now that is very dangerous. So if they must have assemblies, they should bring in a staggered way, whether in a by section or by classrooms. But other messages can be communicated to children in their respective classrooms without bringing them for assemblies.
Some of the teachers we spoke to expressed concern on how to deal with students and those who have since become parents.
How well shall we receive them? How well shall we manage them? How well shall we achieve the expectations of ministry, of KCCA, of the parents, of ourselves, the teachers, of the learners themselves, because at different levels we have expectations, and so we want to see how we can cater for those in the league.
The training that kicked off Monday 20th December is going to run until the 27th of December 2022, with 200 teachers a day, expecting to train over 1,000 teachers in Kampala on how to handle learners when they return back to class. Nalugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter Nalugo. Moving on in our top stories, Modeste Bahati Lukwebo, the president of the Senate of the Democratic Republic of Congo, has paid an official visit to the Nshara Industrial Park, where he commissioned the Zongwu Beef Abattoir Imports and Exports Company under the Sino-Uganda Economic Development Special Zone. We have more on this report.
Zongwu Beef Abattoir facility sits on 5 square miles and is a joint venture between Chinese and Uganda investors that commenced development in 2017. It is located at Nshara on Kampala-Mbarara Highway in Ankole sub-region. It is expected to host about 45 factories in agribusiness, light manufacturing, ICT, pharmaceuticals, and beef production. Speaking at the function, Lukwebo applauded President Museveni for the warm reception accorded to him and his entire delegation, but also reiterated that the main purpose of the visit is to further bolster the excellent cordial bilateral relations between the two countries. Lukwebo hailed the president for his commitment to improve trade between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, a gesture he said will see both countries greatly benefit. The President of the Democratic Republic of Congo Senate also commended the efforts by the officials of the Embassy of the Democratic Republic of Congo to Uganda, headed by Jean-Pierre Masala, and officials of Uganda's Embassy to the Democratic Republic of Congo, headed by James Mbahimba, the private sector in Uganda, especially the leadership of Sino-Uganda Economic Development Special Zone, headed by Audrey Rwabogo and Stephen Kaboyo, as well as Zongwu Beef Imports and Exports Company, managed by Wang Hu, for undertaking this initiative and ensuring commencement of beef production for export to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Speaking on behalf of the Vice President, the Minister for Trade, Francis Mwebesa, applauded the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo Senate for honoring the invitation to commission the facility. The Democratic Republic of Congo remains Uganda's major trading partner, with an export trade volume of $578.9 million registered in 2019, rising from $491.42 million in 2018.
Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the international news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In our international news today, 4 people, including a baby, were killed and at least 12 wounded on Monday in Goma, in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, during a day of Dead City action triggered to protest against criminality, according to authorities in hospital sources. We have more on this report.
The demonstrators were also protesting against the alleged presence of Rwandan police in Goma, strongly denied by the authorities. Early in the morning, demonstrators invaded the main streets of the capital of the North Kivu province, bordering Rwanda, setting fire to tires and erecting stone barricades on the road, an AFP correspondent noted. General Sylvain Ekenge, spokesman for the province's military governor, told reporters that police fired live ammunition and used tear gas to disperse the crowd after 2 law enforcement officers were killed and 2 seriously injured. A neighborhood leader and a police source who requested anonymity said that one protester, a motorcyclist, had been shot dead. Serge Chirumbiro, manager of the CBCA hospital in the Ndosho district, say that at the hospital they had recorded 12 wounded and 1 dead, a child less than 1 year old who was shot while on the back of his wounded mother. Activity in the city remained paralyzed throughout the day, with streets barricaded, stores, banks, schools and the central market closed.
Moving on, the Ethiopian rebels of Tigray, who had advanced in recent months in the neighboring regions of Amhara and Afar, are withdrawing to their region to open the door to humanitarian aid, according to Getachew Reda, their spokesman. We have more on this report. This announcement opens a new phase in the deadly conflict that has pitted for government forces against Tigrayan rebels and their allies for over a year. Until now, the Tigray People's Liberation Front has described a withdrawal from these two regions demanded by the government as a prerequisite for negotiations as absolutely not feasible. This city, classified by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, has changed hands several times, as have other localities. Since late October, both sides have claimed major territorial advances, but communications are cut off in the combat zone and access for journalists is restricted, making independent verification of positions on the ground difficult. The war erupted in November 2020 after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent the Federal Army into the northern region of Tigray to remove local TPLF authorities who were challenging his authority and whom he accused of attacking military bases. Abiy Ahmed declared victory 3 weeks later after taking the regional capital, Mekelle. But in June, the TPLF retook most of Tigray and then advanced into neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara. Away from that, about 1 in 4 people in Somalia are said at risk to severe hunger as a result of a drought that has hit the country ravaged by decades of war after 3 seasons of poor rainfall, according to the UN on Monday. We have more on this report.
The United Nations expects the crisis to worsen by 4.6 million people, and 4.6 million people will need food aid by May 2022, as the country has not experienced 3 consecutive rain seasons in more than 30 years. Shortages of food, water and pasture have already forced 196,000 people from their homes, a number that could rise to 1.4 million within 6 months, the United Nations warned in a statement. In recent years, natural disasters, not conflicts, have been the main cause of displacement in Somalia, a country ranked among the most vulnerable to climate change. Adam Abdelmula, the United Nations humanitarian coordinator for Somalia, told journalists that it is estimating that 300,000 children under the age of 5 were at risk of severe malnutrition in the coming months. Some 7.7 million people, nearly half of Somalia's population of 15.9 million, will need humanitarian assistance and protection in 2022, a 30% increase in 1 year, according to the United Nations. At least 7 out of 10 Somalis live below the poverty line, and the drought has destroyed already precarious sources of income, loss of livestock, reduced harvests, all combined with high inflation. The Somali government declared the drought a humanitarian emergency in November.
Away from that, a number of African leaders gathered in Brussels on Sunday to prepare the European Union-African Union Summit in February. The delegation was greeted by the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. Our reporter has more. The delegation, which included the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, President Macky Sall of Senegal, and Paul Kagame from Rwanda, was received by the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. According to an AU official, the deliberations centered on the preparations for the summit, expected outcomes, the main themes, and ideas to be addressed by the leaders. A number of multilateral investments would be announced by the end of the summit, scheduled for mid-February. The discussion centered on the preparations for the summit, expected outcomes, and the main themes and ideas to be addressed by the leaders, according to an EU official. In a tendency where the ministers of foreign affairs of member states of the African Union and European Union, under the co-chairpersonship of His Excellency Christophe Lutundula Apala Pen Apala, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Democratic Republic of Congo and Chairperson of the African Union Executive Council, and His Excellency Joseph Borrell, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission. Well, thank you so much, our reporter. We take a quick break. We shall come back with the business news. Welcome back from the break. You're still watching TV Africa, the right to know. In a business news today, business representatives from the Democratic Republic of Congo's private sector attended the Rwanda National Trade Fair for the very first time on Monday. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
The event presents an opportunity to the two countries not just to make sales and exhibit the new products, but also to sign a trade agreement with the Rwandan Private Sector Federation that will facilitate trade and boost business cooperation between the countries. Brigitte Gisuba, a DRC businesswoman, said that they are at the fair to showcase Congolese products, their food and their activities, what they manufacture in Congo, and to sell and look for a market. Stakeholders in the agreement further called on the inclusion of local traders in the deal for the benefit of locals between the two countries. The agreement comes after the Democratic Republic of Congo announced it would be joining the East African region, hoping to boost its exports to other countries in the region. Rwanda is also eyeing the wide market in Congo for Rwandan products. Through the trade agreement, both countries stand to benefit in the long run. All sectors in Rwanda are eyeing Congo, particularly manufacturing, made in Rwanda, and agriculture. There is a lot of cross-border trading that includes agricultural products.
Well, let's turn your attention to iHealth News today. The South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has returned to work after spending a week in isolation following a positive COVID test, his office confirmed Monday. Ramaphosa, who is fully vaccinated, felt unwell after leaving a state memorial service for former President F.W.K. Clark in Cape Town on December 12th. Ramaphosa self-isolated in Cape Town and was being monitored by the South African Military Health Service. He had delegated all responsibilities to Deputy President David Mabuza for a whole week. The South African government, however, didn't reveal whether he had been infected with the Omicron coronavirus variant. South Africa, where the highly muted Omicron variant was first detected last month, is Africa's worst hit country according to official studies of virus cases, with more than 3.3 million infections logged and more than 90,000 deaths. In Africa Today Sports, Budu, winners of that championship in 2016, overcame 2008 champions Chadondo in 2-1 in a well-contested quarter-final Masaza Cup 2021 duo. Now, Budu joined Buwekula as the first two semi-finalists of the 2021 Buganda Masaza Cup tournament. Our reporter has more.
Budu, winners of the championships in 2016, overcame 2008 champions Chadondo 2-1 in a well-contested duel. Geoffrey Gaganga and Bruno Bunyaga scored for Budu, whilst Patrick Oyet got the consolation for Chadondo. Gaganga headed Budu ahead of Marvin Kavuma's cross from the right on the 40th minute mark. Bunyaga then converted from close range after bullet free kick delivered by Sharif Sengendo on the right flank. Patrick Oyeti finished off at the back post with 6 minutes to climax the game to give the match a worthy tense ending. Meanwhile, in the early kickoff of the quarter-final, Bwekula overcame Bululi 3-0 to book the first quarter-final berth. Ismail Tambula scored a brace and Captain Shafiq Kakande added the other for Frank Mulindwa's coached side. Bwekula will face the winner between Chagwe and Mawokota at the semi-final stage.
Well, thank you so much for being a loyal audience from where we started from. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We shall keep updating you. It is TV Africa, the right to know.